And two, man, we back and we better. Let's get it.
We out here. We out here.
Daniels takes the snap, drops back, finds a man in the air. He's going for it all. Who else? Frank Darby with the grab. Are you kidding me? Darby, 84, a playmaker for the Devils.
Jaden Daniels takes this one, fakes the handoff to Eno Benjamin, unloads this one, deep bomb all the way inside the 5-yard line. Brandon Ayuk.
Daniels under center, fakes the give to Benjamin, now has to improvise. Jaden Daniels to Eno Benjamin, touchdown Devils. How about that for Arizona State? Well, what else can we say is a third straight loss for the Sun Devils.
There's nothing to say.
Zach Keenan, Jordan Palacio here for the house. And after a very dismal first quarter, the Devils made it the game, but 3 in a row, Zach.
And what makes this loss sting so much more than usual is not only because it was the third in a row, but at the same time because of how well they played in the second, third, and fourth quarters. But the way the Sun Devils played in the first quarter, they really just shot themselves in the foot, and there was no turning back from 28 points, Jordan.
And that's what they've been doing the entire season, starting 5-1 with the Pac-12 South in their grasp. Now they're trying to grasp on to bowl eligibility. But for right now, let's take a look back on Saturday at these highlights from what was a very good game in Tempe.
Salute to service game at Sun Devil Stadium honoring those who have served in our nation's military. The USC Trojans and ASU Sun Devils, neither side bowl eligible, both looking to become so in front of a packed crowd. Merlin Robertson most surely showed up pre-game, but the rest of the ASU defense did not in the first quarter, as Kadon Slovis throwing 1 of 4 passing touchdowns, this time to Drake London. But a spark plug for the Sun Devils on the other side of the ball was Brandon Ayuk on special teams, especially returning this kickoff return all the way to the 3-yard line. It only took 3 plays off of a drive from Ayuk's return for Joey Yellin's first touchdown as a Sun Devil, a connection to Kyle Williams right in the end zone inside the red zone, but Kadon Slovis firing back as this was a battle from the air. Keenan Christian taking this one from inside the 50 and then all the way to the end zone, battling a true air raid offense on both sides on Saturday. And right after, does this look familiar? Keaton Slovis to Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 95-yard passing touchdown to cap off a 315 all-purpose offensive yard first quarter from the Trojans. The Sun Devils answer, Joey Yellin showing off his cannon of an arm. This time it was Frank Darby for his first of 2 touchdowns on the day to the end zone, but it wasn't the last for ASU, and it certainly wasn't the end of the USC's dominant air raid offense. Check out this one all the way, but guess what? Cam Phillips at the Tillman position on a day honoring Pat Tillman with the interception. And oops, I didn't know I left that one in there. But take a look, Joey Yellin connecting with guess who but Brandon Ayuk, really the MVP for the Sun Devils offense in a game where they didn't have much of it early. After shaking off those first quarter jitters, the Sun Devil defense started to come up big. Jack Jones there bobbling the interception, but a deflection nonetheless, stopping that heavy pass offense coming from Keaton Slovis. Another good look at Joey Yellin again, his first start as a Sun Devil, tossing this one again into the end zone. Frank Darby, 2 of 2 passing touchdowns on the day from him. As things got hotter than it was on the grass in Sun Devil Stadium, the USC Trojans coaching staff getting fired up. But at the end of the day, a victory, just like this pass from Joey Yellin to Tommy Hudson, slipped through the hands of the Sun Devils. And into the hands of the Trojans. Final score from Tempe, 31-26 SC, as the Sun Devils drop to 5-4 on the season.
I guess not everyone got the blue suit memo, but at least these two guys did. I've got Jackson Zuber and Rob Werner for some pros and cons now, talking all about ASU's loss to USC. Now, with it being a loss, I think it's only right that we start with some cons. So, Jackson, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, really the first big problem with this game was the slow start. It's obvious if you look at, anywhere, a box score or something, you'll see that they gave up 28 points in the first quarter. 28! That is just a ridiculous number to even think of giving up in just one quarter of football. And they had Keaton Slovis. He got 297 yards in that first. And so that's really where you got to look at for why they lost this game.
But as far as pros go, of course, 297 or 300 even yards really in the first quarter. What about the rest of the game, Rob?
I'm going to go with my first pro as the opposite of that, and it was the way ASU's defense was able to respond after a really difficult first quarter. Giving up 28 points is obviously not a good quarter, maybe the worst defensive quarter ASU's played this entire season, but after that 3 quarters, 3 total points they gave up. Danny Gonzalez said after the game that if the defense would have quit, it might have been 60 points that USC had, so I think that was definitely a pro in the game.
I think it is a pro that 60 points weren't scored on ASU. Jackson, what do you have as a contrast to that as far as cons go, though?
Yeah, I'll just bring the mood back down once again and talk about something that's actually been a problem the whole season but showed itself again in this game, and that is the running offense. So they have a great running back in Eno Benjamin, but he just hasn't been able to be the same back as he was a year prior, and that is due to just inexperience and the offensive line's still kind of learning through some things. So that has to be just another bad sign. He only got 50 yards in the last game, and he's a back that can do a lot more than that.
That is true, and Eno Benjamin's such a talented guy with plenty of NFL talent. But we'll go back to our optimists now, Rob Warner. Rob, what do you have for us as far as an upside, really, of the game?
Last pro I got is Joey Yellin's ability to throw the deep ball. I mean, this was a tough opportunity for him, his first career start against a pretty good USC defensive line, at least defensive front, and he really threw the ball over the place. The first play of the game was a scheduled run. He saw one-on-one coverage with Brandon Ayuk, and Brandon Ayuk told me he loved that his quarterback was willing to take a shot on the first play of the game. I was impressed by that. He connected with Frank Darby on a few deep shots later on in the game. A couple got called back due to penalties, but I was really impressed with the way that he attempted those balls and really put himself up there.
Yet Joey Yellin for sure played a very good game against USC, barring, of course, maybe that first quarter struggles. But more on Joey Yellin's performance, Quinn Jamison.
When Joey Yellin arrived on ASU's campus last spring, he was one of 3 highly touted quarterback recruits starting their first year with the program. After battling all spring and summer, Yellin found himself second on the depth chart behind fellow true freshman quarterback Jaden Daniels. There he waited while Daniels took the Pac-12 by storm, securing upsets over Michigan State and Cal. Through the early season, Daniels showed all the makings of a star, while Yellin never got an opportunity to show what he could do. That all changed last week against USC. Daniels missed the game with an injury, and Yellin took the reins for the biggest game of his entire football career. USC wound up beating ASU after dominating early, but once Yellin settled in, he almost led the Sun Devils to victory and put together an impressive performance. Was he perfect? No. He missed open looks, he failed to look off a safety on a deep ball that got intercepted, and he would have had another costly interception had it not been negated by a penalty. Despite all that, I still left Sun Devil Stadium feeling as if Yellin played a great game. There was something about his poise and aggressiveness throwing the ball downfield that was exciting. It was also effective. Yellin threw for 292 yards and 4 touchdowns. Regardless of the final result, that's pretty darn good for a freshman getting his first meaningful snaps of his college football career. It was revealed after the game that Yellin injured his shoulder on the 3rd play, and he played through that. ASU offensive coordinator Rob Likens called the performance one of the most impressive that he has ever seen. He noted how few reps Yellin got in preparation for the game because ASU's starting quarterback Daniels gets all the reps in practice because he's also a true freshman. That left Yellin doing a whole lot of catching up to do in the 4 days of preparation he had for the USC game. Next week, Daniels will get the start at quarterback against Oregon State if he's healthy enough. If not, ASU has a more than capable backup that is eager to prove his skill set on the college stage. Yellin and Daniels have very different styles, but each can be effective in the right system. Daniels has the support of the coaching staff and appears to be the starter moving forward. If that's the case, it's hard to imagine Yellin as a backup for at least another 2 seasons. The kid can play. The only question is, will it be at ASU? Now, Joran, I just talked about how Jaden Daniels is likely to start against Oregon State if he's healthy. Let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting game when we talk about ASU and Oregon State this year. And let's go back to the beginning of the year, back in August. Before the season started, we all looked at the schedule trying to predict which games ASU are going to win and lose. There seemed to be a few no-doubters on the schedule, Kent State and Sac State, for example. The only game that looked easy on the road was Oregon State. The Beavers have been terrible for the past few seasons and are still rebuilding their program from the ground up. However, this game has all the makings of a trap game. On paper, the Devils should be able to stroll into Corvallis and walk out with a 2-possession victory. But it's never that easy. It will be cold in Oregon over the weekend, and we saw how the Devils played in the cold earlier this year. ASU plays the Beavers' more talented and successful older brother, the Ducks, next week. All the trap game factors are there, but I have one question to pose. Is this really a trap game? The Devils have dropped 3 straight, while the Beavers, while under 500, are having their best season in years. Of course, this isn't a high bar to reach, but the point still stands, that this is no longer the easy win it looked to be before the onset of the season. The Beavers have improved from last season. I would not be surprised if the Devils left Corvallis the losers of 4 straight. Would you? Now, the Devils just lost their 3rd straight game in football, and they started off their basketball season with a loss earlier in the week. We bring on now Eric Ruby into the house to talk a little about ASU basketball.
Yeah.
I know a football show, I know, but let's talk about this basketball team because they got their season started in a little bit of a different way this year, huh? Starting out in China.
Yeah, it's always tough, even time zones, traveling to the other side of the country, it's always tough to adjust to that, let alone going to another country itself, all the way across the world. And yeah, ASU had some good moments and some bad moments in that loss to Colorado.
Well, let's break that game down, because what were some of the key moments that you saw? Because not a lot of people saw that game with the time difference.
Well, let's have a key moment, more of a key player. It's Remy Martin. Now, in years past, Remy's been that guy that either comes off the bench or sometimes he starts, and he's been that bolt of energy. He maybe hasn't been the best player on the court, but he's always tried the hardest. That's different this year. He's the best player on ASU, and in my mind, almost undoubtedly. Now, we got a lot of talent on ASU that we could see and we could watch on a day-to-day basis, but Remy is a guy, he's fun to watch. He's exciting, 23-8-8 now. He did have some crucial mistakes down the end that I think gave Colorado that game, but Remy Martin's by far and away their best player and the heart and soul of their team.
Well, you mentioned that Remy is the best player on the court, but there's a couple key players off the court in Shanghai. You have Tay Cherry and Romello White missing that game due to some team issues. What do you think is kind of missed by their presence on the court?
A lot is missed by Romello because he is kind of like that true big man, that back to the basket, put you in the post, he'll spin off of you, do pretty much whatever he needs. So when you lose that presence on the inside and you have such a guard-oriented team, it's tough because now you don't have people drawing that attention away. Now, with Tayshaun Cherry, it's interesting because going into last season, he was one of the highest recruits the Sun Devils ever got, and there was a lot of pressure on him. There was a lot of, hey, he's going to come in, he's going to be effective right away, and he had a rather disappointing season. And starting the season off this way, who knows what to expect from him now, but missing that shot on the outside, while inconsistent, was still pretty important for the Sun Devils because, like I said, if you don't have somebody on the inside, you have somebody on the outside, you lose both those people, then you don't have a lot of room to operate with. You don't have anybody anchoring in that defense onto any direction.
Now, you mentioned that Tay Cherry is one of the better players that the Sun Devils have recruited in program history. There's a lot of new recruits coming in this year. What do we have to expect from a lot of the new guys?
Well, you can see a little bit from a new guy is Jalen Graham, local kid, actually filled in for Romello, and he did a decent game. 6 points, 2 rebounds, but 5 blocks defensively, which was huge. So he could fill in. He could be a nice spark guy off the bench, get a couple blocks, put defense in there. Alonzo Verge, it was interesting. He got good shots. He was able to create shots. He just wasn't able to hit it. Now, you can chalk that up to them being all the way across the world, so expect him to come in and put him some more buckets. And then Jalen House, another Jalen, coming off the bench, is almost like a Remy Martin light. He's a small point guard that plays with a lot of energy, so when you start staggering those minutes with Remy, a lot of opposing point guards in the Pac-12 and everybody else they play are going to be really tired because both those guys go 110% the entire time.
Well, it's a lot of season left, and you know what else is coming up later in the year? House Hardcourt, baby.
That's right.
House Hardcourt coming up in a little bit, but for right now, Eric Ruby, appreciate you joining us on The House.
The Pac-12 has been very inconsistent, and I think that starts with the play of the quarterbacks. Inconsistent play from almost every quarterback and changes at the position have affected the Pac-12 standings drastically. It's been the three-headed monster of Oregon, Utah, and USC, led by quarterbacks Herbert, Huntley, and Slovis. While the rest of the Pac-12 teams continue to struggle, we will take a look around the Pac-12. We talked about inconsistency in the Pac-12, and the Washington State Cal game was the definition of that. A bad offense versus a good offense, but the bad offense has a good defense, but the good offense has a bad defense. Yes, the game was as confusing as it sounds. The bad Bears offense, well, they put up 33 points. Bears won that game 33-20. But the real question is Anthony Gordon a potential NFL draft prospect? Let's take a look at his upsides. He has a quick release and he knows where to get the ball, and I think that stems from Mike Leach. You see Gardner Minshew and Luke Falk doing it in the NFL right now. His downsides, his ball speed is very slow, especially when he gets the ball out quick, and also he just lacks pocket mobility in general. He could be a 6th or a 7th rounder, but I can realistically see him as an undrafted free agent. Now let's move on to the game in Boulder. The team with only 1 win in Pac-12 play ended up getting their 2nd last week. The Buffaloes beat ASU in September, and last week they beat Stanford after a last-minute 37-yarder from Colorado kicker Evan Price. Steven Montez continues to be a question mark for this Colorado team. He has a potential to be a day 2 pick at the beginning of the season, according to most analysts, but now he's really fighting to get an invite to the Combine. With Chenault and high expectations, the Buffs should be doing better. They haven't been winning, and Montez hasn't been playing well at all. He has 0 touchdowns and 1 interception against the weaker-than-usual Stanford squad. I mentioned Utah, Oregon, and USC earlier, and here's what I have to say. The Pac-12 will come down to the play of a future first-round pick, an underrated quarterback in Utah, and a true freshman. Place your bets knowing that.
Up and down the West Coast for some Pac-12 top plays. Jordan, the first one off, a kickoff in Tempe from USC. Don't see too many of these on the top plays, but it's Brandon Ayuk catching it. And watch this guy go. Hey, pretty good shooting here, too. I like this videography
how about
work.
that, huh? I mean, look at broken tackle after broken tackle. Just the speed of Brandon Ayuk, man.
All the way down to the 3-yard line. That's why he's number 3 on the top plays for this week.
Well, how about this? Can we go to Cal now, into the Bay Area? That's Makai Polk getting a pass from Devin Monster. Check out that ankle breaker, and see you later. Just break a couple more touchdowns en route to a big win for Cal.
Well, that was one of 4 of Devin Monster's touchdowns. Here's another guy who had plenty of touchdowns. This one's still at the end of the first quarter. Keaton Slovis, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jordan, you think anyone's going to catch him?
You know, that's going to be a hard negative for me.
Yes, he's running all the way down the field. I think a 95-yard touchdown from Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's Pac-12 top plays. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Wow.
No one was going to catch him from the moment. I think before the ball was thrown, that was a touchdown.
Absolutely. I mean, Keaton Slovis did a great job, especially in that first quarter, dicing up Arizona State's defense, and 28 points off of 4 drives. I mean, it's hard to do much better than that.
Way hard to do much better than that, but hey.
Hey now.
Trap game no more. Oregon State was the trap game for ASU. Not so much.
Doesn't look like it anymore. I think it's going to be a big game for Arizona State and for Oregon State as well, in the cold in Corvallis. And we are signing off until next week. It's a great show this week, and it'll be an even better one next week. For Zach Keenan and everybody here at the house, I'm Jordan Palacio saying goodbye until next time.